Hi everybody, my name is Alessandro Baldasseroni and I'm lead character artist at NVIDIA. I want to show you a quick video tutorial on how to texture part of a character, specifically the overall of this little pumpkin guy. And we are in Substance Painter and we already took care of the part where we actually baked the normal maps and all the other supporting maps. Everything has been done in Substance Painter, so let's consider only the pants part for now, and let's try to go through it. Actually, let's show everything. Okay, so let's start with the base color. So I usually start with the fill layer, and assuming that this is gonna be like a denim type of fabric, we are basically gonna go, I believe, like bluish when it comes to that. We don't need a metal component, and so for normal as well. In the height parameter, we are gonna basically load denim fabric type of texture, something that you can find pretty much anywhere online. I use usually something like this. It's not exactly denim, it looks more like a, I don't know, kind of like cotton from close up, but in the end it works pretty well. So let's try to plug it in here. So I think I have it already imported in the Painter on fabric plane. Yep, there you go. Of course, now we need to change the tiling. Just make something that more or less feels appropriate. This is a stylized model, so even if we get stylized with the size of the actual tiling, I think it's gonna be okay. Of course, we can play with the intensity. You just have to go to the high channel and play with the amount. So something like this probably would do it for me. The roughness at this moment is very high, which means that we need to lower it up quite a lot. You want to go usually jeans, they don't really have any sort of significant reflectivity, so probably something like this is gonna be enough. What we want to do now is differentiate, of course, this part here where we have the button, and also the side of the bottom part of the pants. We want them to be a different color. So in order to do this, let's first of all mask. Let's mask the effect of this fill layer on the bottom. So let's add the black mask. Sorry, white mask. And using the fill tool, you can actually just select this way the mesh fill, pressing on basically clicking on the bottom part of the mesh is gonna basically remove it from the effect of this layer. And then what we want to do is basically to create another fill layer. This one we basically want it to basically affect only the color part, because we're going to change only the color part of the pants on the bottom. So let's start masking again. Oops, Painter is saving. let's mask the bottom part. So add the black mask, and we want the lower part of the pants to be a slightly lighter blue than this. So we're gonna go probably something like this, and then acting on the mask here, we're basically going to fill the, oops, this time you're gonna use the UV chunk fill, because this part here is in the UVs. So the bottom part of the pants here and here he has like separate pieces, separate islands in the UVs. So I'm gonna click on this area, and it's gonna basically fill those UV parts with the color that we chose, which is in this case is like a light blue. So back to the material. It's probably too saturated, so we want maybe something like this. We can always like tune the colors like later, you know, but this is the setup that I want to establish in the beginning. Okay, so we can create now another layer just for this button here. So fill layer, color is gonna be it's gonna be like a brown button, something like that. Maybe a little bit lighter than this. Yeah, and then let's add white mask, sorry, a black mask, and we want the effect of this fill layer, roughness. We don't need high, we don't need metal, we don't need normal. It's a good habit to just use the channel that you actually only gonna be needing, just to be sure that the effect of the other ones is not gonna get into the equation of the overall look. So now we are gonna select just the button. There you go. And now we are sure that these like fill layers only affects basically this part here, the button. So we can change the color to whatever we want now, and we are sure that it's not going to affect the actual overall. So let's pick whatever color that we like for this button. We can change the roughness as well, of course. Let's say that something like this is okay for now. So now let's go back to our overall, and we want to add at this point some sophistication, some nuances to these pants. And they look pretty CG-ish right now. They lack a lot of like variety in terms of like discoloration and damage and stitches. So we're gonna try to introduce all this stuff. First thing that I want to do is to, okay, let's first of all desaturate a little bit this color, make it like a little bit darker, something like this. So whatever discoloration that we put now is going to be more evident because the base color is basically darker. So let's introduce some discoloration on this part, on the overall. You can do it manually with the brushes, but let's start with the base of procedural edgeware. So in order to do that, let's add a fill layer, and being this a discoloration, I would imagine that the color is and the black mask. I would imagine that the color of discoloration is basically something a little bit lighter than this like base color. It's basically those parts of the jeans where the jeans gets like more worn or damaged. So it's definitely lighter than this color here. So let's add a procedural generator, and in this case I'm gonna pick up just like generic metal edgeware. It should do the trick. course, like the basic parameter is very harsh. So we're gonna play a little bit with the intensity here, the wear level, definitely something about the grunge scale, not really. The curvature, I'm not too worried about how harsh this effect is for now, because I'm planning anyway to get in and tweak these like very harsh edges. As far as the color, of course, we just want the color to be affected, not everything else. So let's eliminate everything else and let's pick up the base color here, and let's go a little bit like lighter than this, almost, yeah, maybe something like that. The good thing about this is that I still have the control of all the parameters here. Oh, it's actually affecting, of course, like the button, and we don't want that to happen. So let's okay, it's not actually, well, we're gonna take care of it like with a painting layer to take care of this like effect that is happening on the actual button. So for now, let's go back to the base color here. Let's call this discoloration. This was button. This was like pants button. Pants base color. Okay, so back to this coloration. We want this to be not that intense. Maybe something like this. And let's see if we can make this a little bit softer than what it is now. Oh, yeah, this one that definitely helps the edge smoothness. Again, don't spend too much time on like tweaking this, because we're gonna anyway jump on it. It's just like a good base that basically touches the edges, so I don't have to do this like completely manual, you know. So let's create a paint layer on top of this, and we're gonna basically, we have now the possibility to tweak these lines the way we want. You can use like a basic soft brush with the lower flow maybe. And we can go inside here and tweak whatever is needed, just to try to make this like, you know, discoloration a little bit like less obvious than what they are now, a little bit more subtle. Always check with the C the actual value, the actual like look of your diffuse texture, because sometimes it's not that obvious to understand what happens just from this viewport here. It can be sometimes like deceiving. I like what's happening in some areas. I like it less in some others, but it's okay for now. It's a decent base to start with. some areas like definitely a little bit too harsh maybe. But it's not too bad either as a start. I'm not gonna do like the full job in terms of like polishing too extremely, just to give you a guideline on how to achieve a certain effect with a relatively low effort. And then I probably want to paint broader areas of discoloration. Let's change the stroke opacity to something like this. I want this to be a broader like discoloration. And it needs to be especially noticeable here on the knees. This happens a lot in jeans, an example where the knees gets definitely more discolored. Just want the flow to be much more subtle than this. You can try with like different brushes as well. You don't have to necessarily use the one that I'm using. You do whatever like it does the job better for you, as long as you understand what you're trying to achieve. And what I'm trying to achieve is to give like the feeling of these jeans like being worn and being used for a while, rather than new and CG looking. Change the lighting to highlight the back. Yeah, definitely want discoloration here, where I imagine it gets more warm because it sits. And then symmetry. Maybe a little bit more of specularity can help to highlight the shader. Okay, we basically painted out the edge effect on the button because it's not really wasn't feeling appropriate, and we are somewhere like this. Yeah, it's probably even better because yeah, it was pretty distant from the distance. Obviously, it needs some finessing. You can spend a lot of time like doing this kind of stuff. And tweaking all these lines here. Okay, so next thing we want to do is probably to add some stitches, just to add a little bit more of sophistication and stylized realism to the whole thing. So in order to do that, I would recommend to use like tools like this that you can easily find online that will do the job very well for you. So let's add layer, and you can really like just click on the tool and just the shift press, drag it around. It's really that simple. Can maybe like try to understand what's the better scale, just changing the size of the actual brush cursor. Using something you need to set up here. It's just alignment tangent wrap, otherwise it's gonna do some mess. See if this is better. Yes. So, and on this layer here, obviously, you can add white mask, so we can basically cancel it, painting in black wherever we need at this point. But what I want to do is probably try to calibrate a little bit the intensity of the stitches, maybe something like this, and even in the height factor, maybe we don't want them to be that strong, so we can change this as well. And then we can keep going, placing them around where you think it's needed. I'm not too worried about being loose because you can always like jump in and you know, mask the effect of your layer. Well, this takes some time, but you can be definitely more accurate than I'm being now. Let's activate symmetry. Yeah, of course, like we can always like get back to these areas and erase it if we don't like what we have done. Try to make it like more clean. It takes patience, but it's definitely doable with the right amount of time. Well, just to give you an idea. And if you want, you can always go in the UV screen here and just like paint them directly on this instead of in 3D if it's easier for you. Anyway, like this can take some time. Just want to show you. Oh, it's still set up on the UV, that's why it was kind of like difficult to paint them. I'm pressing Shift to actually do a straight line. Yeah, I'm trying to be quick and loose, just to give you a general idea of the technique. Could be better. I don't like this, but not sure why it's like no, it's not the cleanest thing I've seen, but it's okay for now. Okay. So let's turn down a little bit the discoloration as well. Maybe we also want if this effect of like the bump a little bit stronger. And oops, and this one maybe a little bit more subtle. Of course, we want the discoloration even to affect the lower part of the jeans. In this case, we can just create this one is going to be called stitches, and then we're going to do a discoloration only for the lower part of the jeans, which now it's probably there, but it's not very visible. So we're gonna do quickly a layer, just the color, and this layer is gonna affect only this part here on on the bottom chins. Yeah, it can be lighter than this. Let's cut this color and make it like much lighter. And then let's have it like affect the lower part only. Yeah, something like that. I would expect that this part here is almost in contact with the floor, so it gets very warmed up. Right. So one other thing that we want to introduce is some permanent wrinkles. Now the fabric looks very flat and very like uninteresting in terms of like surface sculpting, just because there's not much sculpting except these like main folds. What we can do is to add a layer where we're gonna just try to bake some permanent wrinkles. Let's call this like pants bottom discoloration, and then let's add another layer and we call this like permanent wrinkles. And we want this layer basically only to affect the height. Yeah, it's gonna be just like only affecting the height channel and nothing else. So in order to do so, only the height channel needs to be affected, and we're gonna use a specific brush called Crumple. I've done this brush a while ago, and all it does is just basically, if I set up like the height to something like this, it should not sure why it's not working. Oh yeah, it is working. Just very subtle. But it's definitely doing something underneath, as you can see. You see, just like generating some perturbations in the actual mesh. I mean, the look of the mesh. It's definitely noticeable. In the normal channel. See, that's exactly what I was hoping to achieve. You can just like go pretty rough with this. But it definitely gives more character to the fabric. I think in some areas have been a bit too rough, so you can always delete it when it's too strong. It's up to you to decide the right amount of this, like, you know, roughness. You can always, of course, like add one more layer of like generalized dirt. So dirt is gonna only affect, for what I'm concerned, the color. Let's make it simple. So something like this should work. Let's add the black mask, and then we can just use a dirt brush on the mask, and we can just like place a little bit of like brownish dirt all around. I would expect to see the effect on dirt, especially on the knees, but really like just up to you to place it like in the most like logical areas. Of course, like the bottom of the pants. Anywhere that makes sense, really. And you can add like also like other color variation. It doesn't have to be the same brown all around, you know. Yeah, of course, like it's better from the distance than from getting closer, but it's not too tragic. It just needs like polishing, especially when it comes to these like stitches here, and a little bit more like balancing in the tones, but I just want to show you the overall technique. And one more thing that you can do is to add like little damages on the actual fabric. You can either use like you know, brushes that achieve some like, you know, damage or very white fringes and stuff like that. So let's call this like layer fringes. And let's add the black mask. What we're gonna do is instead of using alphas, I want to show you something that I found out. There is a specific brush, it's called rice brush, which is really cool to achieve that. And let's set up a couple of things first. Let's put the color to maybe something pretty light. We don't want roughness, normal, and metal. You want the height though, and this is gonna be set up like this. So now the rice brush is basically like a very randomized, you know, brush that if you play like carefully the proper value of height, you can definitely achieve interesting effects, like having, you know, some damaged fabric. Of course, it's like it's up to you to put some artistry the strokes, but just want to show you real quick the type of effect that you can achieve, not just using a predetermined alpha, but just being creative with a simple setup of a layer and a brush. Of course, like the more you get closer, the more like the effect kind of like loses power, but it's remarkable what you can do with just very simple setup. Pretty sure you can see what I mean in terms of potential. There's always like focus on the big picture before zooming too close. I mean, there are ways to actually make things look good closer. Just a matter of like how much you want to refine it, but just don't lose the overall feeling of how the character looks from a distance. Definitely want some of this damage to appear on the bottom of the jeans. And then if you want, you can introduce even more variation in terms of how you want this fabric to be different in terms of damage and stuff like that. You can add one more layer. We're gonna call it, I'm not sure how to define it, but I can call it like inside the fill layer, I can call it like bumps. And I want this to affect only the height. And I'm gonna use dots. So see, basically it's just like introducing more sophistication to the actual fabric, the look of the fabric. I just imagine that some parts are so worn out that the actual denim is very damaged. And it's really remarkable what you can do with just a few strokes in Painter. So yeah, this is a quick overview of some basic techniques to achieve decent look here for your fabric materials, and I hope that has been somehow useful, and thank you so much for watching.